Hello everyone, welcome back. In this session, I will talk about another sustainable tourism case study, cruise tourism in Venice, Italy. Venice is historically renowned for being one of the most important Italian maritime republics. Over the past 30 years, Venice has become a hotspot for cruise tourism. However, in 2016, it was warned as a candidate for heritage in danger by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site. This video examines the status and development of cruise tourism in Venice and explores how it contributes to Venice's tourism problems. This video has three main topics: introducing cruise tourism in Venice, the social, cultural, economic and environmental impacts of cruise tourism, and some policy recommendations. First, where is Venice? What are its tourism resources? Located in the region of northeastern Italy called Veneto, Venice is the capital of Veneto. This city is unique because it is sited on the Venetian lagoon in the Adriatic Sea with a group of 118 small islands. Venice is the largest island with a size of 156.9 square kilometers. But the surface of the city of Venice is slightly below 8 square kilometers, about twice as big as Central Park in New York. It has a humid subtropical climate with cool winters and very warm summers. It is an all-year-round tourist destination. The city is renowned for the many waterways which crisscross through it and linked by canals and bridges. The beauty of its setting, its architecture and its artworks, the history of symphonic and operatic music are all world-class attractions that attract tourists across the world. The city in its entirety is listed as a World Heritage Site, along with its lagoon. The Venetian lagoon is an enclosed bay of the Adriatic Sea, in which the city of Venice is situated. Lagoon means in the Italian and Venetian languages, an enclosed, shallow embayment of salt water. The lagoon was formed about 6,000 to 7,000 years ago. The following video shows Venice's lagoon and its tourism resources. The lagoon is Venice's lifeblood, has protected and enriched Venice for centuries, and now it is the very asset that Venice has to attract cruise tourists. The lagoon has an ecological complexity and beauty, as shown in the diagram. The ecological biodiversity of the lagoon is a fragile and complex environment in the transition between fresh and sea waters, composed of a continuous series of different natural systems in which the human impact increased in many centuries. In recent decades, the level of pollution in the lagoon has long been a concern. Negative effects to the environment such as air pollution, loss of landscape, surface water pollution, erosion, and decreasing water quality have occurred due to the emission and impacts of cruise ships' transients into the Venetian lagoon. Agriculture deserves much of the blame for the algae that clogs the lagoon during the summer months, since rain often washes chemical fertilizers into the lagoon. Fish farming is another human activity for centuries that caused the change of the ecosystem of the lagoon. Industrial plants on the mainland near the causeway to Venice have also polluted the lagoon by dumping chemical pollutants. There is an airport, 2 train stations that connect to Venice. Buses and cars are the most heavily used by day trippers. The next one is air travel. This is followed by trains. Finally, cruise ships bring in 6,400 passengers in 2007, which are almost all day trippers. Nowadays, the Port of Venice plays a crucial role in the city's tourism. What does cruise tourism like in Venice? If you are interested in knowing more about tourism in Venice, you can also watch another video of this series over tourism in Venice. The UNWTO defines cruise tourism as a wide range of activities for travelers in addition to its traditional function of providing transport and accommodation. Cruise tourism involves an all-inclusive holiday on a cruise ship for at least 48 hours, whereby the ship calls at several ports or cities on a specific itinerary. The nature of cruise ships makes them destinations in themselves. Cruising has become the fastest-growing segment in the travel industry across the world. Demand for cruising increased by 20.5% between 2011 to 2016. Global cruise passengers reached nearly 30 million. The Italian city of Venice is probably one of the most famous cities in the world regarding cruise tourism. Based on the north of the Adriatic Sea, this city is a major home port as many ships start and finish there. It is the second most important Italian port for cruise passenger traffic in Italy, and the fourth in Europe. According to statistics, in 2016 Venice had 31.7% of all cruise passengers in the Adriatic Sea. This means that the city received 1.6 million passengers. During the peak season, it is possible that 44,000 cruise passengers visit Venice on one single day. The number of cruise ship arrivals in Venice changed sharply from 1997 to 2011. Venice's ports have seen an increase of 396.57% in the number of passengers embarking and disembarking. However, the trend is becoming steady and flat since 2012. Venice cruise traffic declined during 2012 to 2017. In 2012, cruise ships docked in Venice 573 times, mainly during the spring to early autumn months. In 2017 there are 918 cruises, big or small, docked in Venice. This figure is increased to 993 a year later, bringing in over 1.6 million cruise tourism visitors. This number has risen from 337,475 to 1,605,660 passengers from 2000 to 2016. That is a mind-boggling average growth rate of 10.2%. In 2019, the arrival of cruise passengers to Venice was nearly 1.6 million. The number dropped significantly to merely 5,653 passengers during COVID-19 pandemic year in 2020. Most of the passenger arrivals are concentrated on weekends, thus averagely pouring more than 30,000 additional visitors all of a sudden into the city, and even much more in peak season. However, such numbers also led to problems and demands for action. The port of Venice is the 8th busiest commercial port in Italy and is a major hub for cruise tourism in Europe alongside Barcelona. The maritime passenger port is Venice's cruise terminal. It can berth up to 10 ships simultaneously in its 3.5 kilometers of quaysides and 10 terminals, for a total of 11 berths. More than 12 cruisers are often found in Venice at the same time, and the maritime docks are insufficient to park at night. Because of that, ships used to park in Riva dei Sette Martiri, very close to residential houses with engines running day and night, which means vibrations, smoke, noise, electromagnetic pollution by non-stop radars. Overall, there are two basic types of cruise ships to Venice. 1. Port of call ships, meaning they come in the morning to let passengers off and leave in the evening when they have returned to the ship. 2. Home port ships, or turnaround ships, meaning that all the passengers get off and new passengers get on. Therefore, the number of people brought to Venice by each ship, both directly and indirectly, is doubled. In 2017, Coalcha proposed cruise tourism system for EU Green Cruise Port, which can be applied to Venice cruise tourism. The system includes 4 key sectors: consumers, cruise tourism suppliers, coastal service providers at the destination, and cruising organizations such as government bodies or NGOs. The influencing factors to the system are also threefold, including both external and internal factors. They are social, economic, and environmental aspects of the destination. Who are these cruise ship passengers? According to a survey, cruise ship tourists in Venice stay on average 1.92 days. Party size is about 2.95 people. 40% of them are from the USA. Average spending would be about $75 for a day or $221 for 3 days. Cruise ships are scheduled to arrive each month, 7 days. Weekend days are 342% busier than weekdays. The slowest month of the year is January, followed by February. The true cruise season, with 87% of all cruise ship arrivals, starts in May and lasts until October. June 14th is the busiest day of the year. In peak season, the average number of daily cruise passengers jumps to 2.45 ships per day or 5,711 passengers on average per day. In 2019, the largest sum of cruise passengers bringing by a ship is Costa Deliziosa, reaching over 100,000 passengers with a frequency of 37 arrivals. The major factors that cause the growth of cruise tourism include a strong economic recovery, causing an increase in consumer spending and a gradual increase in luxury lifestyle. A substantial increase in repositioning cruises, which refers to moving a ship from one sailing destination to another. Cheap one-way flights for travelers. The growth of cruise ship capacity. According to the 2018 Cruise Industry News, ocean cruise ship capacity increases by 48% from 2018 to 2027. New destinations are introduced. Cruising is increasingly popular across various generations. The next big question is what the impacts of cruise tourism in Venice are. To look at the impacts of cruise tourism, the interlinkages and integrated nature of the 3 dimensions of sustainability are crucial in ensuring the goal of conserving and sustaining development could be achieved. 1. Environmental, on the marine degradation, air pollution and noise pollution. 2. Socio-cultural, on the congestion, cultural heritage degradation and local community disruption. 3. Economic, on the benefit and vitality and the leakage and multiplier effect. The economic dimensions are more intertwined with the other 2. The economic impacts have 3 effects at 3 different levels: direct, indirect and induced effects. 1. The direct effect is the effects associated directly with the tourist expenditure locally, such as lodging, restaurant, amusement. 2. The indirect effect is the effects associated with the increase of intermediate demand from tourism industries to local products such as labor, capital and land in the local economy. 3. The induced effect is the effects associated with the household's spending of additional income directly or indirectly as a consequence of the increase in tourist spending. Indirect and induced effects are often called secondary effects. This leads to a key concept of economic impact, the multiplier effect of cruise tourism. That means tourism not only creates jobs in the tertiary sector, it also encourages growth in the primary and secondary sectors of industry. In its simplest form, it is how many times money spent by a tourist circulates through a country's economy. For example, money spent in a hotel helps to create jobs directly in the hotel, but it also creates jobs indirectly elsewhere in the economy, which increases secondary employment. The multiplier effect continues until the money eventually leaks from the economy through imports. The whole economy of Italy benefits with more than €410 million from cruising in Venice. In Venice, it generates more than €150 million in direct expenses. Cruise guests spend between €120 and €160 per person while in Venice. The whole industry provides 43,000 jobs. In 2017 it created more than 5,000 jobs, just the terminal alone. 70% of the total income has been generated from cruise tourists, 24% from cruise ships and 6% from crew members. The tax revenues generated are another induced income from cruise tourism. Cruise tourism also has negative economic impacts. These are overdependent on tourism, leakage, and inflation, and the change of the commercial structure of the city. The first one is abundantly clear during COVID-19 pandemic. International flights almost immediately started to decrease with the full bans in travel and tourism. Venice as a mass tourist destination is brought on its knees with many lost jobs, and the city ceased having incomes. Secondly, cruise tourism seems to bring a lot of revenues, but its contribution is not as expected because of the problem of leakages. For instance, the national excursions sold to the tourists are an important source of income for the cruise companies, but the Venetians benefit about 25% to 50% of the revenue. The rest goes to international cruise companies, booking websites, credit card companies, and so on. Thirdly, tourist arrivals have been causing inflation and the increase of cost of living for decades, including such as renting fees, property prices, and daily spending such as food, post services for the residents. Currently, only major hotel corporations can afford to buy in Venice. The city has become popular with international real estate investors. This has forced many of the residents to migrate out of the city. The whole collection of problems in Venice is cyclical and interlinked. Being one of the most popular cruise destinations in Europe, cruise tourism also had a massive impact on Venice's social landscape. Fishermen's livelihood has changed due to the arrival of cruise tourists depend more on tourism for their income. The city is also more congested, cultural heritage degraded, and local community disrupted. Cruise tourism as a form of mass tourism also escalates the touristification of the destination, i.e., a process in which a place becomes an object of tourist consumption, but very inconvenient for the local residents to live in. Ocean Conservancy lists these as cruise tourism's most pertinent environmental impacts. 1. Oil pollution. 2. Sewage, black water containing human waste. 3. Grey water, water from activities such as showering, washing clothes, cleaning, and washing dishes. 4. Hazardous wastes. 5. Ballast water. 6. Solid waste. 7. Air pollution. 8. Damage to coral reefs. 9. Sedimentation. 10. Endangered species. In Venice, Environmental Protection Agency (EPA) estimates a typical cruise ship can generate per day 21,000 gallons of sewage, 1 ton of garbage, 170,000 gallons of wastewater from sinks, showers and laundry, more than 11.3 kilograms of batteries, fluorescent lights, medical wastes and chemicals, up to 6,400 gallons of oily bilge water from engines, 4 plastic bottles per passenger. 85% of garbage is incinerated, i.e. smog. A 3,000 pax ship has more daily fuel pollution than 12,000 cars. Most ships run on highly polluting bunker fuels, the cheapest to run. The most polluted ports in Europe are Barcelona, Palma and Venice. NOx emissions from cruise ships in Europe are equivalent to about 15% of the nitrogen oxides, NOx, emitted by Europe's passenger car fleet in a year. Contribute about 2.7% of all CO2 emissions in Venice. Cruise ships are becoming increasingly controversial in Europe, and residents of the Italian city of Venice have become especially enraged by the visiting behemoths. This figure shows the European cities suffering the worst environmental impact from the cruise industry are Barcelona, Palma de Mallorca and Venice. Moto also means wave movement, and it is one of the largest and growing environmental problems in Venice. In a shallow basin like the lagoon, natural waves are few and small, but modern motorized watercraft create waves of size, depth, and frequency that is highly detrimental to the city's buildings and the lagoon. While the ship is passing, flow increases an average of 62.8%. The ships also contribute to water and air pollution. The discoloration and decay of stonework in smoky atmospheres is a global problem, and enormous sums are spent on cleaning and restoration. Venice's historical buildings suffer from this constantly. The arrival of cruise tourism has made this more severe. Many of the historical buildings, sculptures and monuments are affected. It is reported 25% of Venetian public art is in danger of degrading. Not all these are due to tourism. Climate change has also caused changes to the lagoon and the ecosystem. Venice is also sinking over the years due to steadily rising sea levels. Compared to 1600 years ago, Venice's standard sea level has dropped 6 feet, which has led to increased flooding. The city is believed to be sinking at a rate of 1 to 2 millimeters each year, with climate change studies warning that Venice will be underwater by 2100. As industrial activities, passing of the cruise ships, and pumping from the aquifer beneath the city have increased, erosion surrounding the lagoon has reached critical levels. 2019, Venice experienced a record high flood level. St. Mark's Basilica was flooded for the 6th time in 1,200 years, according to church records. But 4 of those floods had now occurred within the past 20 years. The famous landmark had suffered grave damage. The crypt was completely flooded, and there are fears of structural damage to the basilica's columns. Sewage and other kinds of pollution used to be a major problem in the lagoon. The garbage from tourism can be more problematic collecting it. It is rather difficult to sweep a canal. Pollution from tourism blights the lagoon and the canal, and impacts on the wildlife and the whole ecosystem. COVID-19 has led to a decrease in boat traffic in Venice's famous waterways that is shown in the images. The top image is from 2020 and the bottom one from 2019. The Grand Canal and the Giudecca Channel appear almost empty and much cleaner compared to 2019. Meanwhile, the lockdown has led to a sharp decline in air pollution across Europe as well in Venice and other cities in Italy. Hundreds of small fish are back and can be seen swimming in Venice's clear canal waters. Residents in Venice have been amazed at how the lagoon city's waterways have been transformed by the lack of traffic. Cruise ships can also cause light pollution. Today the world's oceans blaze with the light from cruise ships, oil rigs, and coastal developments. These impact on marine habitats, particularly in protected areas. Environmental pollution is as much aesthetic as physical. Cruise ships have also impacted the cityscape, damaging natural beauty and causing visual and noise pollution in Venice. Health and safety issues are other important environmental impacts. Several collisions incidences in Venice's lagoon and port had happened. In 2019, MSC Opera crashed into a wharf and a tourist boat. 4 people were injured. Sustainable cruise tourism is being considered a priority in the city's tourism planning. After 2019 MSC's crash, Italy's transport minister suggested a plan for rerouting a third of cruise ships from Venice's historic centre. Many other approaches have been considered to focus on the 4 areas. 1. Reduce negative impacts where economic profits should be strived for. 2. Paying attention to the local, hosting community's interests. 3. Better regulation on cruise companies, and 4. More encouraging approaches to increase responsible travel behavior. In specific, the municipality of Venice is making efforts to develop a long-term plan to reduce the impacts of cruise tourism on the city, which includes 1. Megaships over 96,000 tons from Venice's canals are banned. 2. The number of smaller vessels passing St. Mark's is also reduced by 2%. 3. Alternative routes are designated to reach the cruise terminal. 4. New ports to diverse cruise ship arrivals are in the pipeline. 5. Green cruising. The cruise ship companies agreed to use fuel with reduced sulfur levels under 0.1% during transit and stay in the lagoon. 6. Green passengers encourages cruisers to help conserve water and energy, reuse, and recycle. 7. Finally, a series of conservation efforts is initiated to start a lagoon's own ability to recover its natural ecosystem. That's all for today. There are 3 main topics in this video. Cruise tourism in Venice. Social, cultural, economic and environmental impacts of cruise tourism, and some policy recommendations. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoy it. Don't forget to click like and subscribe to my channel for more to come. See you next time.